The girl in the shipwreck. Commander Rourke wasn't looking for trouble. He was just doing his job, salvaging dead ships on the edge of the Andromeda Rift. That part of space was quiet, almost forgotten. But sometimes forgotten places held dark secrets. His ship, the Vulture, floated near a large, broken alien vessel. The alien ship was torn open, its metal twisted like paper. There were no signs of life, just cold silence. The distress signal had stopped hours ago. Rourke activated his scanner. No movement, no power, just wreckage, he muttered. He suited up and entered the alien ship through a side breach. The walls inside were covered in glowing blue vines, bioluminescent wiring, alien tech. He moved carefully, his flashlight cutting through the dust and floating debris. Suddenly, he heard something. A faint sound. Crying. Rourke froze. He wasn't expecting survivors. Not out here. He followed the sound down a narrow hallway, past shattered glass and broken doors. It led him to a chamber with a glowing red light. Inside, on the floor, sat a girl. Not human. Her skin was pale silver, her eyes large and glowing with deep violet color. Her arms were wrapped around a strange device, like a small cube with symbols he didn't recognize. She looked up at him. Their eyes met, and she began to weep. Rourke stepped back, unsure. He had seen death, war, and aliens before, but never this. Then, in perfect English, she spoke. "They're coming, and only your kind can stop them." Rourke's blood went cold. "Who's coming?" he asked, keeping his voice calm. She shook her head, tears still falling. "The Varek. Monsters in metal. They burned our skies. My world is gone." Rourke looked around the wreck. He believed her. "How do you know English?" he asked. "I was taught. Trained to find you. To warn your people." He looked at the strange cube she held. It pulsed faintly. "You're not from Earth. Why find humans?" he asked. The girl's voice trembled. "Because you're the only ones who fought them and survived." Rourke didn't like the sound of that. He checked her for injuries, deep burns on her side, and a cracked breathing mask. She was dying. "We need to get you out of here," he said. He carried her back to the Vulture, ignoring the voice in his head saying this was a mistake. He had seen alien traps before, but something about her felt different. Honest. Scared. Back on his ship, he placed her in the medbay and connected her to a healing pod. The cube stayed in her hands, even as she slept. It was like she couldn't let go of it. Later, while checking the navigation logs, Rourke heard her whisper again. He turned. She was awake, staring at him with those glowing violet eyes. "They'll find me," she said softly. "They always do." "Not while you're on my ship," Rourke replied. She gave him a tired smile. "You don't understand. They don't stop. They erase. Worlds, people, memories. What do they want?" She hesitated, then said, "Silence. They hate sound, emotion, life. They want a dead universe." Rourke sat down, trying to make sense of her words. "What's your name?" "Leora." "I'm Rourke," he replied. She nodded, then held up the cube. "This holds proof. Memories of what they did to my people, of what they planned for yours." "Why me?" he asked. Leora looked into his eyes again. "Because you remember what others forgot. Pain, loss, anger, and hope." Before Rourke could respond, alarms rang across the ship. A signal, not from her ship, but from deep space. He opened the channel. The message was short, repeating. One word. Help. His heart sank. Leora's voice was barely a whisper. "It begins. What she told me changed everything." The message kept repeating. Cold, sharp, desperate. "Help. Help. Help." Commander Rourke stared at the console, jaw tight. The signal wasn't random. It was locked to his ship's signature frequency, which was impossible. Only the Central Relay Authority could do that, and even they didn't know he was out here. How the hell? It's not them, Leora said softly. Rourke turned. She stood just outside the medbay, pale and trembling, the cube still clutched in her arms. It's a ghost call, a mimic. Her voice was hollow. It's how the Varek hunt. Rourke didn't respond. He watched the signal spike again on the screen, exactly every 6.7 seconds. Machine perfect. They found us, she whispered. Rourke cut the signal and activated the ship's stealth shielding. The lights dimmed, systems dropped into low power. But inside his mind, something felt exposed, like his thoughts were being read, scraped. He turned back to Leora. Start from the beginning. I need answers. Now. Leora sat on the floor, folding her knees under her. The red cube pulsed like a heartbeat. My people are called the Nairi, she began. We lived far beyond the Orient Belt, past what your kind calls Sector Black. We never wanted war. We were healers, listeners. We lived by emotion, by memory. But the Varek, they are absence. They feed on silence. No thoughts, no soul. Rourke leaned against the console. You're saying they hunt emotion. Not just hunt. They erase it. The Varek are machines, ancient, perfect, cold. Once they were created by another race, a forgotten race. But they turned. They decided that sentience is a sickness. That feeling is the virus. She looked up at him. They don't just kill bodies. They kill what makes us real. Rourke rubbed his face. This was too much. And humanity, he asked. Where do we fit into all this? You're an anomaly to them, Leora said. Too chaotic. Too loud. She stood, slowly approaching him. They thought you were extinct. They buried you in their records. A race of violent fire and laughter and madness. You're unpredictable, and that terrifies them. Rourke barked a short laugh. We're not that special. We're just stubborn apes with good aim. She shook her head. No, you feel more deeply than you know. The Varek came for my world because we preserved ancient emotion. Songs, stories, memories. We kept the past alive, but we weren't strong enough to fight them. She placed the cube on the console. That's why I was chosen, to find the last race that had faced the Varek and survived. Rourke looked at the cube. What's in there? Everything. Her eyes shimmered. My world, my family, their screams, their love, their deaths. It's a living memory core, and you're the only one who can open it. Why me? She stepped closer. Because you felt it. You lost someone, didn't you? Rourke flinched. He hadn't spoken her name in years. Anna, his sister, gone in the Trident War. One of the first colony worlds to fall during the collapse. He had survived. She hadn't, but she died saving others. Lyra saw the pain in his eyes. That memory, it's your key. She pressed his hand to the cube. It flared, red, then blue, then white. Suddenly, Rourke's mind was elsewhere. He stood in a massive city of glass towers and glowing trees where beings floated through the air in joy. Music played in the wind, and laughter echoed across the sky. Then the light changed. It darkened. A rumble. A scream. Metal giants fell from orbit, silent and unstoppable. The sky turned black. One by one, the towers shattered. The beings cried out, but their voices were swallowed by an invisible pressure. Then he saw her, a younger Leora, holding her mother's hand, watching her world fall. And then, nothing. A deep, echoing silence that swallowed everything. Rourke gasped, stumbling back into the real world. What the hell was that? He asked, breathless. Just the beginning, Leora said quietly. You touched the memory stream. It's what they fear most. He looked at her, heart pounding. Why? Because humans can't let go of pain, she said. You hold on to it. You build monuments, write stories, start wars, and sometimes you forgive, but you never forget. That's your weapon. Rourke stared out the viewport. A new signal blinked. Not the mimic. This one was real. Faint. Scrambled. Coordinates. A planet. Abandoned. Human tech signature. Project Siren. Rourke stood up. His voice steady. Buckle in. We're going to find out what the hell they buried there. Leora's grip on the cube tightened. She nodded. And far beyond them, in the dark of space, something ancient turned its head and listened. The ghost colony. They arrived at dusk, or what looked like dusk. The sky above Orion 3, once a thriving human colony, now hovered in a dull orange hue, like the planet itself was holding its breath. The system's star flickered behind thick clouds of dust and ash. Satellites, long dead, drifted in lazy orbits. Their hollow signals blinked like forgotten beacons, reaching no one. Commander Rourke stood at the ship's open hatch, surveying the dead city in the valley below. Towering ruins jutted from the cracked ground like the ribs of a fallen beast. The only sound was the slow hum of the Vulture's idle engine. He adjusted the rifle on his back, checking the power cell. He wasn't taking chances. This place was abandoned after the collapse, he muttered. Seismic instability. Toxic atmosphere. Not worth saving, they said. Leora stepped beside him, pale as ever, the red cube still resting in a sling across her chest. That's not why they left. Rourke turned to her. You know something. She nodded, but her eyes were distant. This planet, it's echoing. What does that mean? She closed her eyes, touching the cube gently. The memories here. They're trapped. Rourke didn't ask more. He didn't need to. His instincts were already screaming. They moved through the dead city in silence. The colony had been massive once, one of Earth's most ambitious expansion projects. Now vines twisted through shattered windows, and ash coated the streets like snow. But it wasn't just dead. It was frozen. Everything, chairs, dishes, clothes, lay exactly as it had been the day everyone vanished. No decay, no looting, no time. Lyra paused at a rusted console outside what had been a communication tower. Her fingers hovered above a faded screen. They sealed something here, she said. Something they didn't understand. Rourke knelt beside a broken sign. Project Siren. Sector 3 Research Command. Authorized access only. His heart sank. Project Siren was real, he said. Not just old war stories. They found the entrance half buried under rubble. Thick blast doors, scorched black, bent outward, like something had escaped. Rourke hacked the control panel. Sparks danced. The system stuttered to life for the first time in decades. A voice crackled from an old speaker. Female, human, distorted by static. Protocol Sirian breach. Neural firewall compromised. Containment. Failed. If anyone finds this, run. The door groaned open. Behind it, darkness. The facility stretched deep underground. Dozens of levels, each one colder, quieter, more unnatural. On level 7, they found the memory chamber. Walls lined with pod-like chairs, each wired to a glowing pillar in the center. Human skeletons still sat in several of them, helmets melted into bone. Memory extraction, Rourke whispered, horrified. They were recording human emotion. Leora walked past the remains, stopping at the central pillar. The cube pulsed brighter now, reacting to the room. They tried to weaponize empathy, she said. Turn it into a frequency, something that could break the minds of the Varek. Rourke looked around, and instead, they'd broke themselves. Leora sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes locked on the glowing data pillar. They weren't ready. Humans weren't meant to bear the full weight of memory. Not all of it. Joy, rage, grief. It shattered them. Rourke scanned the system console. A log entry blinked. Subject 19, Commander Elias Rourke. Transfer initiated. Genetic echo detected. Neural resonance confirmed. He froze. Wait. What? Leora stood. That's why the cube chose you. You're not just a survivor, Rourke. You were born here. You're part of this place. Part of the experiment. No. Rourke shook his head. My file says I was born on Terra 5. I don't remember any of this. Because they made you forget. The red cube suddenly projected an image in the air. A boy, maybe 8 years old, strapped to a chair, eyes wide with terror. Dozens of wires drilled into his skull. The background was this very room. A scientist leaned down and whispered, "You'll save us all, Elias. Someday, you'll wake up." Rourke stumbled back. That can't be me." "You felt it," Leora said. "When you touched the cube, you saw my memories. But now, you're starting to see your own." He collapsed into one of the old chairs, hands shaking. His whole life. A lie? Leora stepped beside him, placing her hand on his shoulder. "They buried something in you," she said. "A signal. A legacy. You carry the last code of Siren." Suddenly, the console lit up. Alarms began to blare. A deep rumble echoed through the facility. Intrusion. Det. Rourke shot to his feet. "They're here," he growled. "The Varek." Leora's eyes flared. "Then it's time to awaken what they fear most." She pressed the cube into the memory pillar. A surge of light exploded outward. And Rourke screamed, not in pain, but in remembrance. As light and sound flooded the dead city, far above the clouds, 3 black ships emerged from folded space. No heat, no engines, just perfect, endless silence. The Varek had arrived. But this time, humanity remembered, and it would not go quietly. The experiment they buried. Rourke couldn't scream anymore. He had no voice left. His throat was raw, his mind on fire. Images flooded him in waves, memories that weren't his, emotions too powerful for words. He saw a city falling into flame. Children holding hands, faces tilted to the sky. The crash of waves against steel walls. A woman's voice humming a lullaby in the dark. Then, silence. The cube pulsed in the center of the room, its red glow now white-hot, flooding the ancient memory chamber with unstable energy. The consoles flickered. Sparks flew. The walls trembled. Leora held her ground beside the core, eyes wide, skin shining with sweat. She was chanting something under her breath in her native tongue, guiding the cube, stabilizing it as best she could. Commander Rourke was on the floor, curled in a fetal position, shuddering. But his eyes were open now, fully open. He remembered. They had taken him from his parents at age 5. That much was clear now. Orion 3 wasn't just a colony, it was a cradle, a test site for something humanity had never dared attempt before. Project Siren. The goal was simple and monstrous. To turn emotion, grief, love, rage, into a weapon. Not just metaphorically, literally. If they could extract the raw neurological frequencies associated with intense feelings, amplify them, and project them outward, it could destroy minds, paralyze armies, drive entire fleets mad. They called it resonance warfare, and Rourke, it turned out, had been the prototype. Not just a test subject, the first success. His young mind had survived what hundreds of others hadn't. He had learned to carry the weight of every emotion forced into him, even after they wiped his memory clean and placed him in a normal military family far away from the project's remains. The truth, buried for decades, now lived inside him again, loud, impossible to silence. Leora helped him sit up, her face filled with something close to awe and sorrow. "You carried the flame," she whispered. "I don't want it," Rourke rasped. "I didn't ask for any of this. No one ever asks to be the last hope." Alarms blared through the base. Outside, the sky cracked open. The Varek had begun descending through the atmosphere. Their black ships sending no heat signature, no radio waves, not even sound. Just their presence. Cold. Crushing. Final. Rourke stumbled to the console and activated the last remaining files in the archive. The system hissed and coughed, but the old data came alive. A scientist's journal played, audio only. We miscalculated. The boy. He didn't collapse like the others. He absorbed it. All of it. The sorrow of death. The joy of life. The fury of betrayal. It didn't break him. It changed him. But Central Command won't listen. They're afraid. Afraid of what we've made. They say shut it down. Erase everything. If anyone finds this, Elias is the key. He's the lock. He's the last note of the siren song. The file ended. Rourke stood still, stunned. I was made into a weapon, he said, voice hollow. No, Leora said. You were made into a mirror. The Varek. They erased emotion to survive. But you carry it like a storm. That's what they fear. Why? They're machines. Why would emotion matter to them? Leora took his hand and pressed it over the cube, because they weren't always machines. As the cube activated again, Rourke's vision blurred, and the world shifted. A new memory, not his, took over. He saw an ancient world, once full of life, where the beings who would become the Varek had once been flesh and blood. A peaceful civilization, logical, calm. But when war came, they could not win. So they made a choice. They shed their bodies, uploaded their minds into metal. Cold logic, no emotion, no hesitation, no fear. It worked, at first. But as centuries passed, they realized what they'd lost. And it drove them mad. Without emotion, there was no meaning. Without meaning, no purpose. So they rewrote their logic. If we cannot feel, then no one should. Rourke staggered back as the memory faded. His skin was slick with sweat. They're not just killers, he said. They're jealous, envious of what they destroyed in themselves. A deep rumble echoed above. Dust fell from the ceiling. The Varek had landed. Leora looked up. They're coming. Then we give them what they came to destroy. Rourke accessed the console one last time. There was one chamber still locked. Sealed by DNA. It sat below them, 10 floors down, labeled simply, Chamber 0, Siren Core. The elevator creaked all the way down. Neither spoke. When the doors opened, they were met by a large, circular room, walls covered in strange technology, some alien, some unmistakably human. In the center stood a pod. Inside, suspended in pale blue fluid, was a humanoid figure. A man. No, not a man. It was a copy of Rourke. He stepped forward, breath-catching. It's me, he whispered. Or, the part of me they never used. Leora read the inscription on the control panel. Echo unit. Activated upon full resonance. He's your twin in memory, she said. He holds everything you didn't. Every memory you couldn't handle. Every scream. Every loss. They stored it here, waiting for the real you to come back. The ground shook again. Sirens screamed. Outside, the colony burned. Rourke placed his hand on the activation panel. Let him out, he said. Leora hesitated. Are you sure? No, Rourke said. But I remember everything now. With a hiss, the chamber opened. The Echo stepped forward, eyes glowing, not mechanical, but alive with feeling. Rage, hope, sorrow, humanity. Two Rourkes stood side by side now, whole for the first time. And as the Varek broke through the upper levels, flooding the halls with death and silence, the siren frequency activated. Not a weapon. A reminder. From the burning sky, across the galaxy, a signal erupted, not in numbers or codes, but in memories. It was Anna's voice, calling her brother. A mother's lullaby. A father's cry of pride. The sound of lovers reuniting. The laughter of children. The battle screams of the lost. It was humanity. Raw, beautiful, unforgettable. And the Varrock paused. For the first time in centuries, they remembered. And they screamed. The last of her kind. The Varrock didn't make noise. They never had to. When they entered the underground facility, the air itself seemed to die. Lights dimmed. Power bled from walls. Every machine, every wire, every thought went silent under their shadow. But deep in Chamber Zero, something even older had awoken. Rourke stood with his echo, the other him, a twin born from stolen memories and preserved pain, their hands clasped around the resonator core, now thrumming with the raw power of Siren, an emotion frequency, alive and volatile. Beside them, Leora clutched the cube. Her breathing was unsteady. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from strain. The cube wasn't just a memory archive. It was a conduit. And now that Rourke had reconnected to the Siren signal, it was drawing on her in ways she hadn't expected. "She's weakening," the echo said. His voice was deeper, steadier. "The cube is taking too much." "I'm fine," Leora said, barely above a whisper. "No," Rourke stepped forward, touching her arm. "You've been holding the weight of your people, your family, your whole species. Alone." Her eyes shimmered. "I am alone, Rourke. There's no one else. Not anymore." Outside, the walls shuddered. The Varrock had breached the main chamber. Silent forms moved like liquid shadow, hundreds of them, with smooth metal faces and long blade-like limbs. Their bodies glowed faintly with corrupted blue light, as if mocking the life they had lost. But when they reached the lower levels, they stopped. Rourke didn't need a scanner to feel it. They were afraid. For the first time, the silence was hesitant. "They remember the war," Echo Rourke muttered. "The last time they tried to erase us, and we burned their minds out of the stars." "But that wasn't enough," Rourke said. "This time, we finish it." He turned to Leora. "We're not going to fight them the way they expect. Not with guns, not with bombs. With memory, with feeling." Leora nodded slowly. "Then you must see everything." She took the cube and pressed it between both Rourke's hands. Its glow flared, then collapsed inward, pulling them into a shared mind space, a vast, floating field of stars and shattered thoughts. Here, time meant nothing. Rourke saw Leora's world again, Neria. But this time, not in death. He saw her as a child, running through the crystal gardens with her brother. Her mother laughing, her father building melody towers that sang with the wind. He saw what they'd had, what the Varrock had stolen. He saw her people sacrificing themselves to buy her time to escape. He saw her curled in the corner of a shuttle, sobbing as the planet burned behind her. And he saw the moment she was chosen, the only one with a strong enough neural resonance to carry the memory cube and survive. The last of her kind. When Rourke and his echo opened their eyes, they were no longer just human. They were linked. Empathy flowed between them like electricity, each thought echoing louder, clearer. They no longer stood as a man, a memory, and a refugee. They stood as a trinity of remembrance. The chamber responded. Lights pulsed to life that hadn't been active in decades. Hidden panels slid open, revealing ancient neural emitters, forgotten tools of the Siren protocol. The system recognized its creators had returned. The Siren frequency began to rise. High-pitched, sharp, then deep. Then, it sang. Not words, not language, but emotion. First, grief, the ache of goodbye. Then, fury, a scream for justice. And then, hope, the gasp before a miracle. Above them, the Varrock shuddered. Their perfect forms twitched. Some fell, hands to their heads as if shielding themselves from something they didn't understand anymore. Their silence was cracking. But then, something else entered the system. A new signal, one that pierced the song. Lyora cried out, dropping to her knees. "They're trying to counter it," she gasped. Rourke rushed to her side. The cube flickered, fighting interference. The Varric weren't just trying to block the Psi-Aryan frequency. They were trying to rewrite it. Echo Rourke snarled. "They're injecting a viral null code. It's targeting her." Because she's the anchor, the real Rourke realized. The bridge between us and them. Lyora's body convulsed. Her silver skin flickered, as if reality itself was struggling to keep her in one piece. I can't hold it much longer." Rourke cupped her face. "Look at me. Don't let them erase you." "I'm not strong enough," she whispered. "Yes, you are," he said, "because you're not alone anymore." He turned to his Echo. "Give it to her." Without hesitation, Echo Rourke stepped forward and placed both hands on the cube, transferring every buried emotion, every memory he held, into her. Pain, joy, triumph, betrayal, childhood, war, all of it. Lyra gasped, then screamed, then stood. Her eyes blazed white. The cube shattered in her hands. Not destroyed, released. The full weight of Nayaria's legacy, Rourke's memories, Earth's forgotten history, everything, shot out in all directions as a wave of emotional light. Across the city, across the planet, across space. Varric units froze, then crumpled, then shattered. They weren't dying from damage. They were dying from remembrance. Rourke watched as the sky turned gold. For the first time since she had arrived, Lyora smiled. Tears fell from her eyes. "I remember my mother's laugh," she said softly. Then she collapsed. Rourke caught her. "She's not breathing," he panicked. Echo Rourke knelt. She burned herself out. The cube took her beyond the limits. "No," Rourke growled. "No more death." He carried her to the center of the memory core, now overflowing with siren energy. He laid her down and stepped back. The system recognized her genetic structure. Nayari. Hybrid. Anchor. A pod formed around her, sealing her inside. Status lights blinked. Regeneration, 2%. Neural stabilization. Impuro juries. Mano ROI integrity. Preserved. "She's alive," Echo Rourke said, stunned. She's coming back," Rourke whispered. "Not just Lyora, but all of them." And as the last Varric ship crumbled to the ground, Rourke looked out over the burning horizon and saw the sky breaking open, not with war, but with possibility, awakening the fire. The chamber was still. Lyora floated within the regeneration pod, her body surrounded by shimmering threads of light, emotional energy encoded in memory. Her heartbeat was faint, but steady. Her mind, however, was somewhere far beyond the physical. Rourke sat on the edge of the platform, hands covered in ash and blood. Though none of it was his, the silence after the battle was deafening. Not the cold, hollow silence of the Varric, but the kind that follows something sacred, like the last breath of a prayer. Echo Rourke knelt nearby, staring at Lyora with a look that wasn't entirely human. "She did it," he said quietly. Her pulse harmonized the entire Psi-Aryan network. "You're sure it worked?" Rourke asked, his voice low and raw. "Unsure," the Echo replied. "The Varric aren't just gone from this system. They've gone into full retreat across 7 sectors. The resonance didn't just disable them. It woke something in others. We're getting new signals." "What kind of signals?" The Echo stood and looked toward the open sky. "Human ones." Far across the galaxy, old ships stirred. Derelicts, long forgotten in dead orbits, began blinking again, siren tech embedded in their cores reacting to the pulse. On the edge of the Vega graveyard, a beacon lit for the first time in 200 years. In the ruins of Mars Colony Delta, deep within a buried citadel, Long dormant machines came online, and they remembered the names of every soldier who had died there. The fire had begun to spread. It wasn't fire made of flame or fuel. It was remembrance. The most powerful force humanity had ever held. Back in the chamber, Rourke placed his hand on the regeneration pod. "She's still fighting," he murmured. "She's doing more than that," the echo said. "She's evolving." The cube didn't just contain memories. It rewrote her neurological framework. She's not just a Nari anymore. She's becoming something else. Something human. Later, inside the Vulture, the ship's eye chirped. A message was coming through. Encrypted. Ancient frequency. Rourke opened the console. The face that blinked onto the screen was a shock. An old man, wrinkled and hollow-eyed, wearing the tattered insignia of the Old Earth Defense Command. "If you're receiving this, you activated a Sirian core. We thought them lost." The man coughed. "We have survivors. Fighters. Engineers. Families. We hid in the asteroid colonies after the last Varric cleansing. We didn't forget. But we did lose hope. Until now." He leaned closer. "Whatever you are, whoever you are, you woke the fire again. We're ready to follow. Give us a signal." The message ended. For a long moment, Rourke said nothing. Then he smiled. They returned to the surface, which was no longer a graveyard, but a seed. Project Siren's buried facility had transformed. The emotional frequencies it had broadcast in defense were now rebuilding, repowering. The once black sky shimmered faintly gold, flickering with stored resonance in the upper atmosphere. Lyra's pod, now secure in the Vulture's medbay, continued humming. "She'll wake soon," Echo Rourke said. "But when she does, she won't just be Lyra. She'll be a bridge between species. A living siren." "And what about us?" Rourke asked. Echo Rourke turned to him. "You've always been the key. Now you're the matchstick." Rourke blinked. "The what?" "You're not a soldier anymore, Rourke. You're a signal. You have to go out there, not to fight, but to ignite. Every scattered colony, every broken fleet. You carry the spark." Rourke looked to the stars, deep in thought. "Then we start with Earth." But Earth wasn't as they remembered. When the Vulture entered Sol System 2 days later, they found Earth surrounded by debris. Old defense satellites, broken stations, shattered orbital rings. The planet's atmosphere flickered with unnatural colors, like static across a screen. And worse, no welcome. Not a single signal, not even a warning shot. Echo Rourke frowned. "Something's wrong." "Earth always does things the hard way," Rourke muttered. They landed in the old ruins of New Geneva, once the center of planetary defense. Now it was a crumbling ghost town with one exception. A bunker beneath the surface still gave off heat signatures. They descended, weapons ready, and what they found changed everything. A city beneath the city, thousands of people, still alive. But something was off. They didn't speak. They didn't look anyone in the eye. They moved with mechanical precision, as if emotion had been drained from them. Then Rourke saw it. A Sirian terminal. Broken, rewired, inverted. Instead of broadcasting memory, it was suppressing it. They used Sirian against themselves. Echo Rourke whispered. They feared feeling so much, they chose to forget. Rourke clenched his fists. They made themselves into Varric. Suddenly, the crowd stopped moving. Every eye turned to Rourke and his echo. Then, in perfect unison, they said, "Memory is pain. Pain is weakness. You carry the virus. You will be cleansed." The bunker doors slammed shut. Rourke raised his rifle. Echo Rourke activated a resonance pulse. They didn't know it yet, but Earth would be the hardest battle of all. Not because of the Varric, but because of the people who had chosen not to remember. People who feared hope more than extinction, and if they were going to light the stars with humanity's legacy, they'd have to awaken the fire in their own kind first. She looked into my eyes and wept. At the edge of Earth's dying sky, a man remembered how to feel. Commander Rourke stood in the heart of the old world's deepest scar, New Geneva Bunker Complex, now a hollow echo of what humanity used to be. Around him, thousands of survivors moved like ghosts, their eyes blank, their hearts buried beneath decades of artificial stillness. These weren't survivors. They were prisoners of forgetfulness. The city had become a tomb of memory. And Earth had forgotten herself. Echo Rourke paced beside him, watching the drones above hover like flies over rotting meat. They inverted the Scientific core decades ago. They turned it inward, erased their pain to survive. Not survive, Rourke said, to hide. From sorrow, from loss, from guilt. They had chosen numbness over meaning. The silence broke when the city's central tower blinked with red light. A message boomed from every speaker in perfect monotone. You are not authorized. You carry the virus. Emotional contamination level rising. Evacuation denied. Cleansing protocol initiated. Doors slammed. Sirens wailed. From below, synthetic guardians emerge, humanoid drones, polished silver, with human faces stretched over steel skulls. Rourke's voice cracked as he whispered. They copied the Varric. Echo Rourke activated his neural amplifier. No, they became them. The fight began. Fast, brutal, merciless. But Rourke didn't fire. Not at first. He didn't come here to kill the broken. He came here to wake them. Inside the vulture, Leora's pod began to glow. Her heartbeat rose. She had heard the signal. She was coming back. The ship's AI spoke. Neural coherence stabilizing. Memory streams sensing. Subject Leora approaching phase completion. In the medical bay, her eyes fluttered open. Her voice was a whisper. Rourke. Back in the city, he was surrounded. The drones moved closer. Echo Rourke went down hard, stabbed through the side by one of the silver constructs. He cried out, but even as he bled, he smiled. Now, they'll listen. Rourke activated his internal siren core. A wave of memory burst from his chest, raw and radiant. Anna, his sister, laughing on their childhood porch. His mother, reading to him during the power outages on Terra 5. His squad, dying one by one in the Battle of Ashlight, calling out for home. The frequency sang through the air. The drones faltered. And the people, the hollow-eyed citizens, stopped moving. Some fell to their knees. Some gasped. Some began to cry. They were feeling again. Remembering. In the sky above, the vulture descended. Its side hatch opened, and out stepped Leora. But she wasn't just Leora anymore. Her eyes glowed with a golden hue. Her voice shimmered with harmony. She was memory made flesh, human and Nyari, living siren. She walked to Rourke slowly. As she neared, the resonance intensified. People looked up, tears streaming, their hands trembling. Leora stopped in front of him. She reached up, touched his face, and looked into his eyes. And then, she wept. Her tears were not just sorrow. They were everything. A galaxy of loss. A universe of love. Grief. Rage. Hope. Forgiveness. Do you see now? She whispered. This is what the Varric tried to erase. This is what your world forgot. But it's still here. Still alive. Still beautiful. Rourke's hands shook. His knees buckled. But he didn't fall. He reached out, took her hand, and whispered back, "We're not done yet." The last signal from Earth's inverted Sirian node pulsed again, trying one final time to suppress the wave. But it was too late. The people, one by one, stepped forward, crying, screaming, remembering, and singing. Real voices, raw, out of tune, perfect. The Sirian frequency exploded. A blast of light poured from Earth, shot through the solar system, past Saturn's rings, bent across wormholes, and struck the stars like a flare. It didn't ask for help. It didn't demand justice. It simply remembered, and the galaxy responded. Across the Orient Belt, hidden human outposts lit up. Old enemies lowered weapons. Allies who thought humanity gone began to return. And in the black void beyond known space, the Varrock stirred. They felt the resonance. And for the first time in eons, they remembered their names. And it hurt. Rourke stood with Leora at the edge of the rebuilt tower in New Geneva. The city was alive again. Messy, loud, human. The people were rebuilding, not just structures, but themselves. The Echo sat nearby, recovering. Still separate, but part of the whole now. Where do we go next? Leora asked. Everywhere, Rourke said. Every colony, every lost fleet, every whisper in the dark. We light the stars with memory, one at a time. She looked at him, really looked. I thought I was the last of my kind, she said softly. But maybe I was wrong. He smiled. Maybe we're the beginning of something new. She looked into his eyes again, and this time her tears were of joy.